in 2009, I couldn't pass a background check. So I used other people's information to get a job. And so between 2009 and 2016, the federal government chased me.
For like identity theft or
Yes.
something. Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. So you also mentioned about being transferred to 10 different prisons. What was the rationale behind that? Because like you mentioned, you didn't have a long stay. Well, for me, I would say, not being have ever been in prison, long could be different for me. But within the time period that you were there, being moved around to 10 different prisons, what would you say was the rationale behind that? Like, why did they move you around so much?
Because what would happen is I would be in a unit and the inmates would lie and tell the guards that I was trying to proposition them. And then they would isolate me in solitary confinement and I would start writing grievances. And it was a common pattern. And at one of the facilities, Essex, I got on the phone with my brother and told him what was going on. And my brother said, I will take care of it. And within 3 hours, May Chow from Secret Service and John Schroeder from the IRS showed up at my brother's place of employment. That's how intimidating the government is.
Wow. Okay. And they did that because he was trying to help you.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's the biggest gang in America is police. They protect each other. They lie and they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie.
I've heard that before, but never from your from the direction that you're coming from. I've definitely heard that in the African American community, because of the things that we've dealt with, especially regarding police. So that's different to hear it coming from you, from your perspective. But I guess it's true around the board, from that perspective that there are definitely some things that need to be done, especially in this mental health in the mental health space and getting the training that they need. And I think even somewhat sensitivity training, to be able to be sensitive to the plight of each citizen when they're going through something, because there's definitely been times that people have called for help and then end up in a worse situation, with the police than they were in the situation that they were calling for help from. So definitely, I believe also that there needs to be some work done in the police force and things of that nature. But one of the things that you mentioned, yeah, I mean, I'm
not a chance
hopeful
it's ever going to happen.
You said you don't think it's ever going to happen?
No, I guarantee you, it's never going to happen. It's so ingrained in these people, this cult-like mentality. Whether it's the police departments to the DAs to the judges, they're all in it together. It's not ever going to change. So, I mean, I have friends that have served on juries and I've heard from them, one guy said, hurry up, let's find this guy guilty. I got to go back to work. The other guy said, hurry up, let's find this guy guilty. I got to go to the hockey game. And so as a defendant, there's already this huge mountain to climb because the natural tendency of any juror is this person wouldn't be there if they didn't do anything wrong. That's the natural tendency of any person who serves as a juror. So I don't ever want to hear when they say you have a juror of your peers. The defendant does not have a jury of his or her peers. The defense attorney has a juror of the peers. The judge, the lawyers, everybody who doesn't have a criminal record has a jury of their peers. The defendant does not.
Yeah, and that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective on it, and I never thought about it that way. I've been summoned for jury duty. I've never been picked to actually serve, and that definitely not asking to be, but I've never had been actually picked to serve. But I do understand that rationale that because people are, especially the citizens that are pulled to jury duty, generally you're pulled out of whatever it is that you had going on. And so a lot of people are just trying to get back to their regular lives and not necessarily thinking about the person whose life they have in their hand that they're making a decision on. And it's unfortunate that sometimes we do get those people that just want to get back to what they care about, and not necessarily taking the seriousness of the taking the seriousness of doing the jury duty and being an active juror inside of the situation that they're in. I want to talk. One of the things that you mentioned about with the system being a two-tiered system, and you mentioned that it's like a different system for us as far as, I guess, the regular citizens, and then there's another system for people who may not be like us. So could you give me a little bit more information on that thought process, and why do you say that?
There's been people that have been involved in the rigging of the elections in 2016. Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, that will never see the light of day. These people are corrupt, they're evil, and they've engaged in a huge conspiracy against President Trump, and they will never be indicted because they're protected. And, if I were to go to trial in a progressive state like Vermont, just like those people who went to January 6th, I would have been found guilty.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think that, and this is definitely not a politics podcast, and I usually don't even deal with politics, generally, but I do think that is interesting when especially with the different things that have transpired over the last couple of years, with the elections and things of that nature, because there definitely have been some different some different characters that has definitely popped up in the last couple of years, and I think that even though things are a little different with our politics, I do think that we should definitely play a part in it, even if we don't think that things are necessarily going to change for our better, or that there's going to be any change. Like you mentioned about the police reform, which is definitely a part of our government, that needs to be done. But I still think that we still have a part that we need to play as citizens, to kind of get those things to change. But I want to talk more now, before we get out of here. We still have a couple minutes. I want to talk about the book itself, because you wrote a book about your experiences. So tell us a little bit more about the book, and what do you hope to that the reader will get out of listening to your story, and really kind of finding out what happened with you.
Well, I wrote the book because I wanted to chronologically share my story, just like Anne Frank when she was pursued and had to hide in captivity to protect her family. I felt the same way. I wanted to share my story so that nobody has to go through the torment, the torture, everything else that I had to deal with. And not just me, my family, my friends, everyone else, the shame that we have to deal with, because my name was in the paper, and the liberal news media totally misrepresented everything that occurred.